Welcome back to Respoiled. Today, I have another captivating story to share with you. But before we dive in, if you're new here, I invite you to subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications, so you'll never miss out on all of my latest uploads. Now let's get started. In the horror video game, Stay Alive, a character explores a sinister mansion. He notices shadows shifting in mirrors and a woman in red within a doll cabinet, which moves when he moves away. Identified as the Blood Countess, she suddenly emerges in the corridor, pursuing the character. He flees, but the door shuts automatically as eerie spirits manifest. Rushing upstairs, he encounters a room filled with corpses. The Blood Countess then shoves him off the staircase, leading to his demise via the chandelier chain. In reality, player Loomis encounters the game over screen, unaware of a creepy face lurking behind him. He then phones his friend Hutch, inviting him to join in playing the game over the weekend. Later, Loomis hears a noise upstairs and cautiously approaches a door, only to find his roommate with a girl. Despite this, Loomis teases them about losing in the game, having seen their characters dead. During sleep, he dreams about the game, awakening to a power outage. Descending the stairs, he's startled by a figure in the mirror and hears a nearby noise, attributing it to his imagination. Unaware, he heads to the kitchen for a drink, oblivious to the shadow in the corner. Suddenly, he hears the noise again, and the shadow draws closer. In fear, Loomis hurls his glass at it, shattering the mirror, then rushes upstairs. Seeking help, he enters his friend's room, only to discover a horrifying scene. Both his roommate and the girl lie dead, mirroring the events of the video game. Abruptly, the ominous shadow ensnares him with a chain, replicating his demise in the game as it hurls him off the handrail to his death. The following day at work, Hutch converses with his boss, Miller, about video games until he receives news of Loomis' demise. Later, at the funeral, Hutch encounters Abigail, who is photographing mournful faces. Unexpectedly, Loomis' sister approaches Hutch, presenting him with Loomis' bag as a memento. Later, Hutch visits an internet cafe run by his friends October and her brother Phineas, both avid gamers. They examine the contents of Loomis' bag, discovering old photos and a lighter that unnerves Hutch due to his fire-related trauma. Among the items is a copy of Stay Alive, unfamiliar to October, prompting Hutch to explain Loomis' involvement in beta testing. Back home, Hutch is alarmed by a noise at the door, only to find his friend Swink arriving to join the Stay Alive session. Shortly after, October, Phineas, and Abigail join, with Miller participating online from his office. However, the game stalls on an image of a book, requiring players to recite the prayer of Elizabeth over their microphones to progress. As they recite the poem together, the words vanish, yet none of them notices the emerging shadow in the room. While crafting their characters, the narrator recounts the tale, triggering a sense of déjà vu in October. As the game commences, the joysticks mirror the game's tremors. A ghost promptly launches an attack, but they dispatch it effortlessly, yielding a rose. The narrator elucidates that roses offer a means to evade insurmountable ghosts. Despite the sluggish outset, the characters venture into a cemetery, engaging in exhilarating battles with ghosts, much to the delight of the friends. Eventually, the group ventures into a building, discovering a portrait of the Blood Countess during her life as Elizabeth. Hutch observes the shattered mirrors in the game, while Miller investigates the basement, where a door abruptly closes, isolating him. Within, he encounters a room teeming with blood, corpses, and apparitions, using his last rose to dispel them. Devoid of roses, the Blood Countess assaults his character, resulting in Miller's game over. Perceiving movement nearby, Miller assumes it's the night guard. The group decides to adjourn, and as Miller exits his office, his door creaks open, prompting him to startle the guard with a prank, only to find no one there. A shadow emerges in the corridors while Miller hears his door creaking open, coinciding with an eerie sound echoing through the room. Investigating beneath his desk for the source of the disturbance, Miller discovers his vibrating joystick, only to be abruptly attacked and slain by a ghost. The following morning, Hutch arrives at work to a scene of his distraught colleagues and police investigating. Hindered from accessing Miller's office, Hutch is questioned by Detective Thibodeau about their recent gaming session. After being released by the detective, Hutch catches a glimpse of Miller's lifeless form on the desk. Later, the friends stumble upon Miller's in-game character's body, strikingly similar to his real demise. Feeling unsettled, most of the group agrees to refrain from playing again, prompting Phineas to opt for a solo session. He encounters a mirror in the game that shatters upon reflecting a carriage, but upon inspection, he discovers its reverse side, crafted from silver, remains intact. Observing the approaching danger, Phineas pauses the game to safeguard his character. Meanwhile, the group deliberates on recent events, with Hutch highlighting the correlation between Stay Alive and the deaths of Loomis and Miller. Concerned, they hasten to Phineas's aid, only to find him engrossed in smoking. Dismissing the theory as baseless, Phineas flaunts his mirror item, prompting the group to return to their activities. As Swink attends to his computer, he witnesses blood seeping from his keyboard and CPU, inadvertently making contact with it. Simultaneously, October glimpses a ghost in the mirror, while Hutch observes his reflection's eyes undergo a transformation before the mirror shatters. However, these occurrences vanish upon blinking. Phineas, occupied with his car, hears approaching horses and swiftly evades an oncoming vehicle just in time. Subsequently, Hutch delves into researching his friend's demises on the office computer, noting the uncanny resemblance to details from the video game. The girl's corpse lacked blood, and Miller met his demise by massive twin blades. Absorbed in his investigation, he remains oblivious to the ghost roaming the corridors. The following day, Hutch convenes with October, Swink, and Abigail to disclose his findings. October shares her own research findings, uncovering the inspiration behind the Blood Countess, the real-life notorious murderer Countess Elizabeth Báthory. All the structures in the game replicate her actual residence, including the torture chamber where she inflicted suffering. She would seek out victims in a dark carriage and subject them to immense twin blades, despising mirrors as they reflected her aging. Confined to her tower as punishment, she vowed retribution for her imprisonment. Meanwhile, Phineas heads to meet the others. Suddenly, the sky darkens, and a ghost materializes before his car, causing him to veer off the road. Exiting the vehicle, he contacts his friends, reassured by their reminder that his survival in the game ensures his safety. Nonetheless, the sound of approaching horses signals danger, culminating in the appearance of the carriage that fatally strikes him. Upon discovery, October breaks down over her brother's fate, while the others confirm Phineas' character met a parallel demise in the game. The police soon arrive, and Hutch shares his theory with them, but Thibodeau dismisses it as absurd and becomes suspicious of Hutch due to his connection to the victims. As they converse, Officer King decides to test the game on the boy's computer, only to have his character fall victim to a lethal trap. Following this, the group unanimously agrees that no one else should be harmed, prompting them to seek a way to halt the game's influence. Shortly after, King attempts to procure Stay Alive from a video game store, but the clerk is unfamiliar with it. Upon returning to his car, he encounters the ghost, resulting in his demise mirroring that of his characters in the game. Meanwhile, Hutch and Abigail break into Loomis' residence in search of clues, where Hutch reveals his aversion to fire. Recounting a traumatic childhood event, he describes how his father, fueled by jealousy, set their home ablaze, leaving Hutch paralyzed as he witnessed his mother perish in the flames. Inside the house, they encounter the lingering traces of blood, doing their best to overlook it. They discover Loomis' cell phone containing the game developer's contact details, prompting them to inform Swink in October of their plan to visit the company. October takes the opportunity to share her research findings, revealing that the only way to vanquish the Countess is to impale her body with 3 nails to confine her soul and then incinerate her blood. Meanwhile, news of King's demise breaks, leading the police to encircle the apartment. However, October and Swink narrowly evade capture by fleeing through the fire escape. Later, the friends convene at Loomis' residence and realize that the poem recited at the game's outset summoned the Countess's ghost. Suddenly, they observe the game inexplicably running on the computer, displaying a ghost peering at October's character through the window. While her friends search for her, October notices a ghost in a neighboring house under construction while smoking outside. Intrigued, she ventures inside and discovers a chilling chain on the floor. As the ghost lurks in the shadows, October attempts to fend off the Countess using a nail gun, but to no avail, the nails pass right through her. In a panic, she tries to flee, but the chain ensnares her ankle and hoists her upside down. Her cries alert her companions, who attempt to enter the house but find all entrances mysteriously sealed. Tragically, the Countess claims October's life before vanishing, leaving the trio to discover their deceased friend upon gaining access. After mourning their loss, they hastily depart in Abigail's van before the authorities arrive. They deduce that the game is operating autonomously, prompting Swink to volunteer to continue playing to safeguard their characters. Upon reaching the company's address, they uncover that it's the original residence of the Countess. While Swink remains in the van to continue playing, Abigail and Hutch venture inside to explore. With no response to their knocks, they enter the house and split up to search. Abigail stumbles upon a doll resembling the Countess in a room identical to the game, while Hutch discovers the black carriage in the garage. Simultaneously, Swink realizes that the in-game house mirrors the actual layout, guiding Hutch with directions. Hutch eventually locates the cemetery and tower from the game, just as Abigail opens a wardrobe to reveal the same passage she encountered while playing. Here, she discovers various eerie items such as shattered dolls, unsettling insects, notes detailing torture and dark rituals, the portrait of the Countess, and her infamous twin blades. A diary reveals the names of all the girls the Countess murdered to maintain her youth. Suddenly, the power cuts out, and bugs cascade onto Abigail's face before a ghost materializes, prompting her to scream. Hutch hears her cries and rushes to assist. Swink directs him to a locked door, and by manipulating the game, a crowbar manifests in reality, allowing Hutch to break the lock. Inside, he encounters another locked room, but Swink intervenes by providing a key item from the game, enabling Hutch to unlock it. As Abigail is ensnared by the ghostly hands and the Countess brandishes her blades, Swink's character arrives first and disperses the spirits by tossing roses. Hutch soon arrives and comforts a panicked Abigail with a kiss. Shortly after, the van begins to vibrate as the joystick activates, and the doors abruptly close, preventing Swink from accessing the computer. In the game, the carriage attempts to attack the character, but Swink breaks a window and moves him away just in time. Although Swink's character remains alive, the Countess appears nonetheless. Fearing for his life, Swink flees toward the roses but becomes entangled in a bush, allowing the carriage to close in on him. Meanwhile, Hutch and Abigail return to the van to find the laptop displaying "Game over," with Swink's character deceased in the bush. Determined to complete their mission, they gather nails and roses before the carriage arrives, chasing them through the cemetery. Hutch shields Abigail by guiding her into a mausoleum for safety. He then allows the carriage to approach him, using a rose to vanquish it, though the flower is destroyed in the process. Discovering a hidden passage in the mausoleum, they traverse it towards the tower. The Countess attempts to attack them, but Abigail swiftly dispels her with a rose. As the corridor fills with the ghosts of the Countess victims, the duo flees, dropping roses along the way before seeking refuge in the Countess torture chamber. Hutch discovers the staircase and barely ascends a few steps before the door slams shut, separating him from Abigail. She encourages him to locate the Countess' body to end their ordeal while she safeguards herself with their final rose. Climbing the stairs, Hutch reaches the tower's summit and encounters the impeccably preserved remains of Countess Elizabeth. While he begins driving in the three nails, Abigail plucks petals from the rose, murmuring, he loves me not." Suddenly, the room plunges into darkness, and Abigail materializes hanging from the ceiling. As the Countess moves to taste her blood, Hutch pounds in the last nail, causing the spirit to depart Abigail and return to the ancient corpse. The tower trembles, dislodging several objects, including a shattered oil lamp. At that moment, the Countess rises from the bed, and Hutch hears the nails clatter to the floor as she expels them. Recalling Phineas' mirror, Hutch utilizes his silver laptop to reflect the Countess's image back at her, causing her intense agony. Then, he summons the courage to confront his fear of fire and ignites the oil from the lamp. As the flames engulf the Countess, completing the ritual, Hutch attempts to exit, but the door is sealed shut. Reflecting on his childhood and fearing he may suffer the same fate as his mother, he is relieved when Swink arrives and kicks the door open. Swink and Abigail arrive with more roses to fend off the Countess, allowing them to rescue Hutch before fleeing. The Countess's body is consumed by flames, and as the trio departs from the tower, the smoke billows in the distance. Later on, the official release of Stay Alive hits the shelves of video game stores. Magazines feature articles about it, attracting the attention of a clerk who decides to play it on the store's console. New players recite the summoning poem, and the Countess is glimpsed at the tower window. Don't forget to like, subscribe and enable notifications for more content like this. Thank you for watching.